Do you guys remember the famous line? Biomarkers don't lie. Oof, that aged like milk on a hot summer day. So Cassava's phase 3 results were recently released, and yeah, it was really bad. This is like if you had spent 200K on college tuition and failed your last exam and then got kicked out without a degree. But it's 100 times worse. Like, not only did they fail the co-primary endpoints, but they also failed the secondary and biomarker endpoints. Yikes. I figured I would share my initial thoughts and reflection on this whole saga. Look, I hate to be that guy, especially given the losses. It probably stings for many watching. Listen, I've gone through it as well with losses exceeding 6 figures and learned from them. So hopefully you can learn from this experience as well. Also, this is going to sound rude and mean, but I don't care. Some of you need to hear the truth. Based on my past interactions and what I've seen from some Sava bulls, I genuinely think you should quit stock picking and stick to index investing. I've learned the hard way not to let emotions override logic. I also made the mistake of having rose-tinted lenses in many of my past investments. Like, just real talk, this shit is supposed to be hard. This game is ruthless and it's very much like PvP in a video game. You are going to get taken advantage of if you're not careful. It's not a matter of if, but when. So with that out of the way, let's talk about some of the red flags we should have seen. All of these, by the way, I've brought up in my past videos. Check the receipts. The biggest, in my opinion, and what many Cassava investors invested based on was the 2-year open label data that was literally unprecedented in this field. The argument was that the data integrity was never in question, and if replicated in phase 3 would 100% result in approval. The huge caveat, and what we all know now, is that it should have been placebo-controlled, and that Cassava management should have ran a placebo-controlled phase 2 trial before burning hundreds of millions of dollars of shareholder money on a phase 3 YOLO. This is extremely important because a controlled group would have identified and accounted for any variations in Cassava's phase 2 patient group. To elaborate on this, we know it's a fact that the phase 2 enrollment criteria was significantly more lax compared to phase 3. Some Cassava bulls brought this up as a positive, but I disagreed because it introduced more chances of variation between phase 2 and phase 3. Like, I specifically called this out 7 months ago, where I discussed my suspicion on the variation in screening criteria between phase 2 and phase 3. So basically, to put it simply, there was a chance that the phase 2 patients enrolled did not have or were borderline in terms of having Alzheimer's. So of course, that would explain the unprecedented phase 2 open label results. And do you know what could have resolved this whole thing? If Cassava management ran a phase 2 placebo-controlled trial. Oopsies. Another fact that got many Cassava investors bullish was the 90% open label extension enrollment rate. Again, I specifically discussed this very topic in detail in a past video where I disagree with the notion that a high open label extension enrollment equals the drug works. I think in retrospect, many were blinded by hopium, bias, and greed, which is unfortunate. The third point I wanted to discuss is the whole biomarker fiasco. Do you guys remember the famous line? Biomarkers don't lie. Oof, that aged like milk on a hot summer day. I've also brought up biomarker as a risk in many of my past videos. The fact that they magically got out of this world biomarker results from a quote-unquote outside lab that turned out to be the lab of the co-inventor of the drug is just extremely scummy and deceptive, in my opinion. Also, to my understanding, they had more backup biomarker samples, but decided not to run tests on them for whatever reasons. Despite the shorts bringing this up, is a huge red flag in retrospect. And number 4, I think many bulls were hoping that there'd be more institutional interest once the SEC settlement uncertainty was finalized. I was also hoping for the same, but it turned out to be worse than expected. When they disclosed some phase 2 data were unblinded and cherry-picked by Lindsay. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but I specifically called out this cherry-picking as a massive red flag in my past video. Like, this is the type of shit that should raise massive alarm bells to anyone thinking logically. Like I've said in the past, it's an integrity issue. If they fucked around with this, I mean, what else did they mess around with that we don't know about? It's just not the right way to run a bio business, or any business for that matter. Also, just on this topic, I kind of feel bad, to be honest, for the people that bought into the whole David versus Goliath narrative, where a poor, innocent, helpless bio like Cassava is up against the huge evil of government and big pharma. Like, the copium and tinfoil hat theories were almost as wild as the 90 to 99% phase 3 approval rate that was spewed nonstop for a period of time. Anyway, I hope you don't take this as me dunking on you. I'm doing all this in my little spare time out of personal interest, and I'm not paid a penny by YouTube or anyone else. So yeah, if I'm being honest, it is partly for ego given the hate I've received in the past. But more than that, I wanted to help people by sharing my genuine, unfiltered thoughts throughout this whole saga, and hopefully at least helped one person save some money on this hot mess. It's definitely been a huge learning experience for me personally, and I'm glad to have gone through it, despite the mental toll and stress it's added to my life these past 3 years. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Anyway, I wish you guys the best. Please take care in looking after the important things in life, like health and family. And I appreciate your support in tuning into my videos. It means a lot, and hopefully they provided some value. Cheers.